My name is Q Mangus. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Guava, and I will be walking you through this presentation today. To begin with, just to get us thinking about the need for email system migration, I want to ask a few questions of everyone here. You don't have to answer this, just think about it, and think about this to yourself, and hopefully that'll spur some ideas as we're going through this. Have you ever gone through an email migration? Is this something you have done? What was your experience like when you did that? Was it a good experience? Also, are you planning a migration today? If not, do you have future plans? And if so, do you think you'll be migrating again? Some things to think about. Obviously, many organizations experience email migration. You've probably had that happen to you, and you'll probably have it happen in the future. It is something that as needs evolve and as companies change what they're doing, it is something that definitely comes up. A few things that I'd like you to put, if you could for me, in the chat window there, is just out of curiosity, what's your current email platform? If you could put that through for me. And then what are you planning on moving to? So we'll touch on that, and I won't share any of that, but just be aware that that's something that's of interest, that might be something that we could look at here. Here, as you can see on the screen, we have the agenda for today. We're going to talk about some of the trends in email migration. We're going to talk about some of the things that we've seen as organizations have been moving from one platform to another. We're going to talk about some of the issues that organizations have seen when they're doing migrations. And then we're going to review how to ensure that you're prepared for a migration. And we're going to talk about some of the solutions that Guava has to help you in that migration, help ease that migration. Let's talk a little bit about the trends. So we know that Exchange and Office 365 are the dominant players in the email marketplace. This has actually caused many organizations to move from their current email system to a Microsoft solution. Just some interesting things to take note of is that Exchange is the dominant email system worldwide with over 200 million seats. Office 365 continues to grow with over 5 million current seats, and it's actually estimated that by the end of this year that Office 365 will have roughly 15 million seats. And then when it comes to what clients people are using, Outlook has actually 76% of the market. So whatever your reason is for migrating your email system, it's really essential that you understand the landscape, what's out there, and also what you can do to ensure that if you're planning on moving to Exchange or Office 365, that you have a successful migration. And of course, a migration can be difficult unless you have the right tools at your disposal. There are many tools on the marketplace designed just for migration. However, those tools do not necessarily provide you with an email archive. So that's something to be aware of as well, that when you're migrating email systems, it's a great time to visit the idea of archiving. You need to be able to archive your email in addition to having an email system. So another added benefit of having an email archive is that you can ensure that you don't lose valuable email information during the migration. So let's take, for example, that you're moving from one email system to another. If you have an archive and that archive is tied to your email system, it has that historical data. So the chances of you losing valuable information when you move are much less likely because you have that data archived. And then also, if there was ever something to go wrong during the migration, you can actually fall back on the archiving solution. So that's something to be aware of, that there are tools out there to just help with migration, but it's essential that you have an archive as well, both for being able to make sure that you have good information management, and then also that you're complying with regulations regarding email archiving. And of course, there's plenty of webinars out there for you to look at that we offer as well about the reasons to have email archiving, and I encourage you to check that out and to check out our documentation about that. But just be aware that that's something that is helpful when it comes to when it comes to migration. So now let's talk a little bit about the solutions that Guava provides to help you ensure that your migration is quick and seamless. Let's touch a little bit about the different tools that we offer, the different solutions that we have. So we have a pathway that is different for you depending on what you're planning on doing. The first one is migrating your email system using retain archiving. And we'll talk about that. And then the secondary one is using the Migration Toolkit, which is something that we specifically developed to migrate organizations that have been mandated or need to move from GroupWise to Exchange or Office 365. So let's touch on each one of these options. The first one is migrating with Retain. So what Retain does is it helps you actually migrate from your current messaging system, whether that's GroupWise, Gmail, Exchange, or Office 365 to a new system. So the Retain, I know that this picture shows GroupWise to Exchange. However, it is for any kind of email system. You can use Retain for migrations. And the reason why you can do this is because Retain archives in a platform-agnostic format. So it doesn't matter what email system you're using, Retain supports it. So what happens is, and the way you do this, is that first you make sure that you're archiving using Retain. Then you implement your new email system. So let's say you're going from Exchange. So you're currently on Exchange and you're moving to Office 365, which is a pretty common thing. You just tie your Exchange system to Retain, ensure that you're archiving, implement the new Office 365 system, and then tie that system to Retain. It's really that simple. So now the great thing is now you have the new system. In this example that we're giving is Office 365. You're running that system. That's live for all your users. And then you have the historical data in Retain for Exchange. Of course, this can be applied depending on whatever email system you're using. And now the other great thing is that now you're running your new system and those messages are being archived in Retain. So if you ever do need to move again, you can, of course, move again because all that messaging data is archived in a platform-agnostic format that you can easily search and export and go back and tie a new system to. And, of course, you can set policies to ensure that you're archiving what you need to do. And what's awesome as well is that the Retain Unified Archive can be deployed on-premise if you prefer, or in the cloud. You have options for that. And one other thing to take note of is that the Retain Archive has powerful tools for e-discovery, and it allows your end users to access the system. And also, when migrating, this will look seamless to your users because they're going to still be using the same solution for their archive, and then they'll be able to use their new solution. So it's going to be something that will make your transition even that much easier. Now let's touch a little bit on the Migration Toolkit. So what the Migration Toolkit is specifically built for is to allow you to migrate to Exchange or Office 365 from GroupWise. So what it does, and I'll talk about the different pieces of it, but basically it specializes in efficiently and thoroughly storing and extracting, indexing, searching, publishing, and importing email and its associated data. So what it does, the Migration Toolkit that is during the extraction process, it copies email data in a platform-agnostic format. From here, the data can be migrated into Exchange or Office 365. So if you're actually looking to take your GroupWise data and put it into the new Exchange system, this is where you would use the Migration Toolkit. And so some of the things that the Migration Toolkit has is it migrates GroupWise to Exchange or Office 365. It provides a pre-migration email analysis to determine what is needed to be migrated and the length of time needed for the migration. It migrates email, appointments, attachments, folders, notes, tasks, calendars, and address books to Exchange or Office 365. It'll migrate the GroupWise personal archives to Exchange or Office 365. And it creates forwarding rules for GroupWise for after the migration. Let's talk about each piece in detail. So the first one is the, here are the three, I got a little ahead of myself here. Here are the three tools for migration. You have the eDirectory to Active Directory migration tool, the GroupWise to Exchange / Office 365 migration tool, and the GroupWise personal archive and live mail to PST conversion tool. These are three separate tools. They're actually licensed separately, but they can be bundled. So if you need a directory migration, you can have that as just one piece that you purchase and utilize. If you just need the GroupWise to Exchange or Office 365 piece, once again, that's just one part of it that you can utilize. Okay, so let's touch on the eDirectory to Active Directory migration tool. So what this does is it moves user objects from eDirectory to Active Directory. It actually runs independent of GroupWise and can migrate users whether or not they have a GroupWise account. So what you can do with this tool is you can migrate those user objects from eDirectory to Active Directory. You can migrate data to Active Directory, on-premise or Office 365. And you can actually migrate default user password or the options for randomly generated passwords. Those can all be migrated. So great option for you to if you're moving from eDirectory to Active Directory. A couple of things to make note of is this tool does not allow you to migrate GroupWise resources unless you extract the user list from GroupWise, and it doesn't allow you to migrate other eDirectory objects. It's mainly for the user objects. And another thing to take note of is for this to work is you do have to have an existing Active Directory environment, just so you're aware. Once again, if you're planning a migration from eDirectory to Active Directory, I would encourage you to take a look at this tool. It's really essential to ensure that your move is complete and seamless. Now let's talk about the GroupWise to Exchange Office 365 migration tool. So what this has is a set of tools to migrate GroupWise data from a live environment to Exchange on-premise or Office 365. So some things to take note of is once the utility has been configured, data can be migrated from GroupWise, the GroupWise live environment, to Exchange or Office 365, and it's controlled. The data that's migrated is controlled by the administrator, and there's a tool that you can use to ensure that all data has reached the correct destination accounts. So that's something that's nice is that you have a report that you can run to make sure that the migration was successful. And as you can see on the screen here, here's some of the things that can be migrated. You can migrate email and attachments. You can migrate sent items, draft messages, notes, and phone records. You can migrate calendar data, which includes appointments and tasks, personal folders, cabinet items, and trash messages. You can migrate personal address books, including frequent contacts and distribution lists. Those are all things that can be migrated from GroupWise to Exchange or Office 365 using this toolkit. Another thing too, and this is important for those of you who may be moving from GroupWise to Exchange or Office 365, is you need to be able to convert existing GroupWise personal archives and live data to PST files. These files can be imported into Retain if you choose to use Retain, or can be saved and provided to individual users for use as an archive folder within their Outlook client. We know that a lot of organizations are forced to use PSTs. If you do have that, we do have the ability to help you convert that GroupWise data to PSTs. As I stated before, one portion that's essential when you migrate is you need to make sure that you migrate everything. You need to be able to see what is needed to migrate, and the Migration Toolkit will help you do that. So what it has is, the Migration Toolkit has some of the following features. You have the pre-migration email analysis to determine what is to be migrated and actually determine the length of time needed for the migration. It migrates, as I stated, all email system components, which were email, appointments, attachments, folders, notes, tasks, calendars, and address books. And of course, there's a great thing there, which is the creation of forwarding rules in GroupWise for after the migration. One other thing too to take note of is the toolkit helps ensure that shared services like shared folders and proxy users, GroupWise distribution lists, and shared address books are migrated as well. That's all migrated using the Migration Toolkit. One thing too is when you go through the migration process, there may be concerns about new user accounts. With the Migration Toolkit, all user accounts will be provisioned. And what this means is that existing eDirectory accounts are provisioned in Active Directory. Existing Active Directory accounts are mail-enabled, and GroupWise users with existing Active Directory accounts will be merged into one account. That's all part of what the Migration Toolkit will do. So you don't have to worry about creating new accounts or try to manually merge existing accounts. The Migration Toolkit will actually do that for you. So I just want to reiterate that we know that email system migrations can be difficult, and we know there's a lot of steps that you have to go through to do that. Well, what we try to do with this Migration Toolkit is ensure that everything that you're needing to do, whether that's provisioning new users, moving people over from existing Active eDirectory accounts, merging those Active Directory accounts, whatever it may be, we're giving you the tools to make sure that your migration is successful. And what's great is that with our support, we're actually going to be with you along the way if you need it. Support can help you through that process. Here's an actual view, a screen grab of the user configuration of Active Directory and Exchange in the Migration Toolkit. As you can see, you can quickly and easily provision user accounts and then do directory or email system. Quick view there. And here's a few views of how you can provision eDirectory accounts into Active Directory and create new users in Active Directory. Here's a screenshot of how you can merge GroupWise users with an existing eDirectory account and mail-enable existing Active Directory accounts. Once again, we try and make this intuitive for you as you're going through this, and make sure that your migration is quick and seamless. Now, for those of you who have a larger email system, we can actually help speed up the migration process. We have some things built into the Migration Toolkit to do that. So the way that is done is the Migration Toolkit has the ability to thread multiple migration instances on several machines. So this will actually greatly increase your migration productivity. And of course, the reason here that we want to make sure that this is fast is that we don't want your business to be interrupted, right? As your email is such an essential part of your business, you need to make sure that your email system does not go down for extended periods of time. And so by being able to thread multiple instances of the migration, you'll actually increase that and help make sure that this transition is seamless for your users. Also, when you're making a transition, you may decide to or actually be forced to change your email naming structure. I know this has come up a lot. We've seen this come up a lot with different organizations that when they make a move, they want to or need to change their naming structure. So an example is, name@domainname.com gets changed to firstname.lastname at differentdomain.com. And so, it's really likely that your organization is migrating, maybe possibly in part to growth within your company. And so you need to make sure that you have the ability to change this naming structure. So let's just take an example once again. If let's say that your current GroupWise naming structure is kelly@acme.com, the toolkit actually will help you make the transition smoothly and easily to say it's kellyjones@acme.com for Exchange or Office 365. So when you're making that naming structure change, the Migration Toolkit will help you do that. And remember, we talked about this a lot. When you're migrating, all your data may not get migrated. That's why it's essential to have those reports to make sure that you see what's going to be migrated and how long it will take. And then there's also another thing is that the Migration Toolkit has logging tools that keep a complete record of all data that was marked for migration. So what you can do is you can actually go back to that log and see, compare to what was in the original email system, and then view what was migrated. So you can ensure that all data was migrated into the new system. And this logging is done on a per user or global basis, however you'd like to set that up. And once the migration is all done, the toolkit provides you with a comprehensive report of all migrated data. And now to finish up, I know I've touched on this a little bit. Just be aware once again that it is very important that you have an archive. And during the time of an email migration, it's probably a really good time to visit that if you don't have one. And furthermore, with Retain Unified Archiving, it's archived in a platform-agnostic format so that once again, if you ever do need to migrate, you won't have to worry about the same kind of issues that you may be facing now, because you can have an archive that is platform-agnostic that can work with any kind of email system that you're using. And one other great thing to take note of is that Retain archives more than just email. It provides archiving for multiple email systems. So if you're in a situation where you're running, say, GroupWise and Exchange at the same time, you can actually run those simultaneously and archive those simultaneously. Maybe a good solution for those of you who may still want to keep some legacy GroupWise accounts, and you're going to start a new Exchange or maybe Gmail or whatever the case may be, you can be archiving both of those at the same time. And what's great is that all of those messages are accessible from one central archive, so you don't have to go to one archive for one email system and another for another. And further, Retain also archives all your mobile communications, social media, and web searches, and that's all in that one central archive. So let's talk about the next steps here. You can download the 30-day trial is for Retain. So if you're looking to go and utilize Retain for archiving or for migration, I encourage you to download the free 30-day trial. If you're looking for a trial of the Migration Toolkit, it's a 5-user license that you can use to just test it out. So I'd encourage you, if you'd like to try it out, to download the free 30-day trial. You can download it at guava.com/download, or you can contact us at questions@guava.com or call us at 866-GO-GUAVA. So if you're in the process of doing that migration, I'd encourage you to contact us and see how we can help you out. We're readily available and willing to help you with that migration, and we've done that a number of times, and we're here to help. So that's the presentation for today. I hope that helps with what you're looking to do. Thanks everyone for being here and for your interest. And just so everyone is aware, this webinar has been recorded, so if you'd like to go back and view it or share it with coworkers or other peers that you have that are interested or in need of a migration, please feel free to share that. Now we do have time for questions. I'm going to look and see. It looks like we may have some questions that have been put through. So let's see. Okay, so a question here is there a risk that accounts get duplicated when you move them to Active Directory? There may be a risk of that, but once again, we have the tool, we have those reports that help you see what may have happened, and then it merges existing Active Directory accounts. So I would say there is a risk of that, but there are safeguards in place to help ensure that those risks are mitigated. Okay, the next one is, does the Migration Toolkit work for other migrations, say from Exchange to Office 365? So as of now, the Migration Toolkit is exclusively for a GroupWise to Exchange or Office 365 migration. There is talks of having some other versions of that. One, I think the first one would be GroupWise to Gmail and potentially an Exchange to Gmail. But that's nothing that's coming out anytime soon, so don't quote me on that. Of course, the webinar is recorded, so I guess you can. But yes, that is something that we're possibly looking towards, but right now the Migration Toolkit is just for GroupWise to Exchange or Office 365. And then however, for other email system migrations, as I stated, you can use Retain and do it as an archive type migration where you archive and then move systems that way. Okay, so this is good. What version of GroupWise to version of Exchange can be migrated? So the supported versions of GroupWise are GroupWise 7 and above. So GroupWise 7, GroupWise 8, GroupWise 2012. What are we on? 2014. So yes, 2014. Any of those GroupWise versions 7 to above, and then we're migrating to Exchange 2007 and above. So there you don't have to have like one version to one version. It's basically GroupWise 7 and above to Exchange 2007 and above are the two systems that are supported. So if you're doing a migration from GroupWise 2012 to Exchange, what do we on 2012? That's possible. GroupWise 2014 to Exchange 2012, that's not an issue there. So anything Exchange 7 and above, or 2007 and above, and GroupWise 7 and above are what the migration toolkit will do. Great, awesome questions. That looks like all the questions we have. Let me just double check here in the Q&A. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to put those through. That looks like everything. If there were any questions that we didn't get to, please feel free to contact us, and we will reach out to you. Thanks again, everyone, for being here and for your interest in this webinar. And we hope to see you on the next one. Thanks again.